If I believe that Jesus started the Catholic Church, why would I go anywhere else? A lot of people might think that it's kind of sleepy or it's boring. It's not. It goes so much deeper than like anything else.
Up to DC on a Monday, broke records all that week, get called into a meeting on Monday morning and I'm told that my position has been eliminated. Pretty much straight up told her, I don't think I'm the Catholic you're looking for.
God works through a ton of different mouthpieces and he's the one creating this content.
For sure.
We're just the producers.
With this, we're literally just like, okay, the mic's on, the camera's on, tell us your story.
Welcome to Planet Cross. I'm Madeline Heinz. Today we sit down with my co-founder of Planet Cross, Katie Zakrzewski. We discuss the origin and mission of Planet Cross, share our personal testimonies, and challenge the idea that the Catholic Church is boring and outdated. I enjoyed discussing how even though Katie and I come from very different backgrounds in the Catholic Church, God has put the same desire in our hearts for digital evangelization. Planet Cross exists to bring you stories like this. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to like and subscribe, share with a friend, and head over to our website, planetcross.com, to find more life-changing stories. Katie, welcome to Planet Cross. This is going to be our first episode on the YouTube channel and our first post on the website. And so we're just going to talk a little bit about today how we got started with Planet Cross, why we're doing this, and then also share a little bit about ourselves as co-founders of Planet Cross. And I think it feels right for us to tell our stories first before we're asking other people to tell our story, to tell their stories. So, yeah, can you get us started? How do we get started with Planet Cross, and what's our mission?
Absolutely. It just seems like God's hand has been very visible throughout this entire process. All the dominoes that I think had to fall at the time that they did for all of this to come together the way that it has. I know that, as a local Catholic journalist, I'm always hearing people's stories and interviewing them for hours at a time, but then you pull like 2 lines from the whole interview for their story. I'm like, man, I just wish I had unlimited space to just share that story with people. And it's just so crazy. Your dad did my taxes, and he was like, you need to meet my daughter. She does calm stuff too, and she's really passionate about the faith. And it was just crazy that all the pieces fell into place for us to sit down, get to know each other, and talk. And the more that we talked about our faith and career experiences, the more we realized, there's no one outlet here in our diocese or in our state dedicated to just sharing those stories from people. There's a lot of news-based outlets, but nobody really just sits down and puts the mic in front of other people and says, just tell me your story. So we're doing that. So I'm super excited to get to share some of those great stories that I've been hearing for years that I was just, other than the 2 lines you pull for an article, you're keeping a lot of that to yourself. So I think that now this is an opportunity for us to pull those people in the room, have them share that full story, and create the impression on you and the memory on you that it's created on me. So I'm super excited to share so much of this. I think that this is really going to take off. I'm really excited.
Yeah, and I grew up in Little Rock, in Arkansas, and it's very Protestant, everything here, and so the Catholic diocese seems like it's not as important or as big as other churches and how active they are. But coming into the Catholic faith, I've learned just how active, but just not vocal and out in the open. Everything is happening at the diocese, and how God is working through our tiny little diocese of Little Rock. And I think sharing the stories of how God is working in our state and locally will help encourage other Catholics who might not know how alive and active their own diocese is, but also other Christians and even non-Christians, how they can get inspired by how active and alive our diocese is. It's just not presenting itself. It's like it's kind of dormant to the outside world, and then but the people who are involved deeply in it know how alive it truly is.
Right, absolutely. That's why I'm super excited. I think, people have talked about for decades the impact that the Little Rock Scripture Study had on the rest of the Catholic world when it came to Scripture studies and things like that. And the general sentiment was, how could something like that ever come out of Little Rock? So I think it's super exciting because this has the opportunity to be that again but from a 21st century lens in terms of, we've taken a lot of those same concepts, but decades later, we're bringing them to the present, and we're highlighting a lot of these really cool stories that a lot of people often can't believe are coming from Little Rock of all places. They're expecting, oh, that's probably in San Diego or in Baltimore or in New York. No, it's right here in the Protestant Bible Belt in the Diocese of Little Rock, Arkansas, which is a mission diocese that covers the entire state. So I think that, if we have the opportunity to show if this can happen here with the limited resources and limited Catholics that we have in our state, just imagine what you can be doing in your diocese, because you're probably either on a similar playing field or you've got more resources at your disposal than we do. So, I mean, I can really only imagine what this might inspire other people in other dioceses to do, to share those stories too. So yeah, definitely the sharing stories aspect. I feel like we lose a lot of that in news coverage and stuff like that. So now just to have the opportunity to showcase, these are people who come from backgrounds that aren't too different from your own. I mean, this is something that, you can very easily undertake in your own community too. So I think shining a light on those stories and letting other people know about those possibilities, that's what I'm most excited for with this project, for sure.
Yeah, because also on these types of podcasts and like article websites, that it's usually the Catholic public speakers or the people that are famous and notable, whereas like we're wanting to highlight just normal people, like a mixture of average, everyday people in our diocese, and maybe even further if it grows to
With
that.
that being said, if Pope Leo calls us and wants to be on Planet Cross, absolutely, but we're not usually interviewing the Pope Leos of the world. We're interviewing the people who work hard behind the scenes to make a lot of these things work.
Because it's the ordinary people that are the backbone to everything. And it's also relatable, because sometimes you might think, oh, that's great for them, but it's not for me. They're called to speak in front of lots of people. They're called to have this specific type of ministry, but highlighting normal people who have maybe normal daily jobs. They're like a truck driver or someone that is just seemingly not associated with the Catholic Church, like professionally. They have great stories, and highlighting those testimonies will hopefully inspire other just normal lay people. Although we are going to have lots of episodes with priests and religious sisters, because they are also just normal people. They just have their job in the church as well. And also to clarify, we are completely independent and self-funded. We are not funded by the diocese. It's just me and Katie.
Be a lot cooler, though, if they wrote us a check. But with that in mind, it's just us. I mean, we're both super passionate about it. We're young people who have been involved in these careers, in these comms fields, the marketing fields, advertising fields, production fields. And I think we realized, God cultivated a lot of these skills in us at a very early age and put us into contact with the people that he did, probably just for the opportunity to do this. So it's really interesting to see how a lot of our, I think, ambitions, whether they were faith-based or career-based, have led to us gathering these skills so that the two of us, with the help of a handful of others, can do something that it would normally take. If you're starting from scratch and you're passionate about doing this, man, good luck, because it takes years to accumulate some of the technology and the knowledge that we've just so happened to accumulate. So, I definitely feel like this was just divinely inspired in multiple ways.
Your husband's a videographer. He provided these mics for us.
I know. What are the odds of us just being like, you know what? Let's start a show. Also, we already know a lot of the stuff. So, but I think that I like what you said earlier. I think the time is ripe for something like this. And we saw a lot of that when St. Frassati and St. Carlo were both canonized, because a lot of people gravitated around the two of them, because it wasn't stories about, as great as it is for a lot of our monks and sisters throughout history, they get stigmata and they levitate and they cast out a demon and they heal somebody who's been beheaded. That's cool. That's great. I'm not doing any of those things, I don't think, anytime soon. Probably
You're not planning on it.
Probably not. Yeah, I'm not planning on it. Now, the plot could change drastically at some point, but I don't think I'm going to be doing any of those things. I I think a lot of people identify a lot more closely with those average, ordinary people who show us how to embrace holiness in our own everyday lives, who face a lot of the same challenges that we do, who have a lot of the same struggles that we do, and the same issues and distractions that we do. So I'm super excited to use a lot of those things that are labeled as just distractions, technology and things of that nature, to be a tool of evangelization, to use that as a weapon for good, to use that and those skills to highlight those everyday, ordinary people in our diocese and our lives that we see at all these events, working diligently behind the scenes to make all these things happen in the first place. So I'm super excited to get to highlight those stories and share more of that and evangelize the kingdom by highlighting those everyday stories.
And the church is also emphasizing digital missionaries nowadays. And so for me, what really connected with putting Planted Cross together was the fact that we are a mission diocese. We are in a place that's not super Catholic. We are evangelizing for the Catholic Church, not just Christianity, but the Catholic Church specifically. And the Jubilee for the digital missionaries just happened a couple months ago, and Pope Leo specifically talked to them and was telling them that the content that you make is not just about generating content, it's about creating a connection of hearts. And that's really what we're trying to do here. And so I knew that this was going to be a very mission-driven endeavor. And that we're going to be digital missionaries through the videos, and we're also going to have some written articles on our website, because not everyone wants to be on camera. And so we'll have lots of great stories on there as well. And the reason we actually chose the name Planted Cross was from a quote from St. Therese of Lisieux. She is one of the patron saints of missionaries, and I think specifically for this one quote where Planted Cross comes from, where she says that she wants to plant the cross on every shore. And she had that missionary zeal. And I think similarly within Planted Cross, she stayed in her one place. She was a cloistered nun. She evangelized through prayer, and then when she went to heaven for interceding through prayer in that way. And I think the digital world is kind of the same thing, because you don't have to leave where you are to go and evangelize. And that's kind of currently our Wild West where the missionaries who came here to bring Christianity, they planted their cross and they evangelized a world who had not heard about Christianity or about Jesus. And we are now living in that same land. That's the land itself has spread Christianity. Like, you can find it all over the world now, essentially. But now, like, the new frontier, the new shore is the digital world, where people are now all over the world in one place. And that's really a place where we can claim for Christ and be digital missionaries in that way. And then also bringing it to our own hearts, because it's like we might be around it, we might have grown up with it, but are we actually like planting the cross in our hearts and letting it completely change our lives? And so that's kind of how we came up with that name as well. It was very meant to be, like you were saying, because of all the names that we had considered and thought of. That was the first one that came to my mind because of St. Therese, and that quote stuck out to me from Story of a Soul. And it was the only name that we could brainstorm that had zero digital footprint.
Nothing associated with it,
I Googled Planted Cross, and so a couple cross-stitching things came up, or like some plants in the shape of a cross, but nothing about Planted Cross. You would have thought that like there was like something named Planted Cross, maybe a church or something, but there was nothing.
So, and I mean, and what a great time to be doing this, because I feel like, just beyond the recent canonizations that we've had, this being a Jubilee year, the 10th anniversary of the Laudato Si environmental encyclical, with us being Planted Cross, the 800th anniversary of St. Francis's Canticle of the Creatures. I mean, there's so much going on this year, including a new pope who took the name Leo, specifically to talk about the impact that technology and AI and the digital world are having on people, and the rights of people and the rights of the worker. So I think that this is it's just perfect, the way that things have all come together the way that they did, the way that things, because I've done a lot of stuff in the comms world before, between new publications and new platforms and stuff like that. I've never had anything go as smoothly as this, knock on wood. So clearly this, to me, that means that this is in some way divinely inspired. And I'm so glad that you've mentioned our patron, Saint Therese. I mean, what a great example to follow, because she was, loved this idea of littleness. She didn't see herself as being hugely important in the big scheme of the world. But when you think about the impact that she had in just, 24 years of being alive within a convent as a cloistered nun in France, and now she's got a following all over the world. And as we record this, we're a couple of weeks away from her relics coming to our diocese. So, I mean, and they're expecting like tens of thousands of people who are following her, not just from in-state, but from out of state. So when you think about the impact that somebody was able to have well beyond their frame of time and living, and even though they embraced littleness and simplicity and things like that, I mean, just imagine the impact that she might have had if she had a show like this. So that's why I'm super excited to think, we now have those tools at our disposal and so many examples to follow on what good evangelization and holistic evangelization and selfless evangelization looks like. But now we've got the microphones and the cameras and the lights and the equipment to get other people to hear about it. So hopefully, that everything will continue to go the way that it's gone, and you'll be able to tune in and hear all sorts of cool stories from the Diocese of Little Rock, where we're embracing littleness even through this production. So I'm super excited.
Little Rock.
Yeah,
Little Rock.
And that was, I was talking to some of the nuns at the Carmel of St. Teresa of Jesus, and they had said that they had picked up on that very quickly. They were like, how ironic that the nun who embraced littleness is coming to Little Rock of all places. So yeah, it's a very good reminder, especially as we're recording this, that who we're doing this all for.
Yeah.
So, and some of the folks who came before us. So yeah, we've got big shoes to fill.
Yeah, and really this is just being obedient, because this
Yeah.
is just something that was placed on our hearts, that it's like,
Absolutely.
if we don't do this, it's
Yep.
not going to get done.
Well, and if we've got the skills and the Holy Spirit brought us together, and we both identified pretty quickly within talking to each other that this was the need, and for us to just boom, 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 for everything to just fall into place, for us to meet the people who, like I said, I've never had anything go that smoothly, whether it's contacting somebody and asking them if they're interested, getting a yes that quickly, getting them to come in, sitting down, setting up, having everybody available with the materials, with the expertise to set things up. So for us to have started talking, like 3-4 months ago?
Not even.
Yeah,
It was
not
like
even
2
that.
months
Yeah,
ago.
2 months ago, and now we're filming our first episode. I mean, that's like unheard of out of anything that I've been involved in. Granted, my experience is not that enormous, only 27, but just from the experience that I've had, I mean, this is a very unique case in terms of things, and now I'm hoping I'm not jinxing it, but for things to go smoothly, that makes me think, okay, we're clearly moving in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and because we're moving in the right direction, I'm not positive that everything will always go smoothly, because we will probably face some backlash, but yeah, I'm very excited about it.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be really, really great. So yeah, we'll have our episodes out on YouTube, and there'll be long form interviews, sit downs, and we'll also have some written articles on our website, and we'll collaborate on all of those things, and hopefully start sharing lots of really, really great stories and encouraging people to live their lives in a more holy way and seek Jesus in everything that they do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the goal. So, yeah, I'm eager to see where we're at here just a month from now, 2 months from now, end of the year. So, I mean, it's grown pretty quickly, so I'm excited to see where we're at in a month or so. Okay, Madeline, so I've done a ton of talking for the last few minutes. I think it might be better if folks know a little bit more about us in terms of what brought us together into this place in the first place. We've talked a lot about the experience that we have and the background that we have, so let's talk a little bit more about that. I know we have different stories. We're, I think, two sides of the same Catholic coin. So tell us a little bit more about your story in terms of, what does your faith journey look like, and how did we get here today?
Yeah, so I'm a recent Catholic convert from non-denominational Christianity. That's really how I would describe it, because I grew up in a completely independent church and very non-denominational in terms of not associated with anything. Very unique, one building, one community, all in itself. It did branch away from the Church of Christ, which even that it's a little bit more of an independent type denomination. And so when they broke off, it wasn't necessarily that they were breaking off and schisming from another denomination. It was just like, we're two communities in the same one, so I think it's best if we just break off. I don't know all the details. It was in the 80s. My dad was in high school, but it was my grandparents and their friends who broke off from that and started basically their own church.
Okay.
And so I don't know if you know much about the Church of Christ.
No, I'm Catholic. I don't know nothing about anybody that ain't me.
But their most notable difference, like if you visit one, is that they do not play instruments in church. They only do a cappella singing.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
so the joke, I don't know if this was the main reason or not. Probably not. It's a little superficial. But they played the guitar in the new church. And so they would joke that we wanted to play the guitar, so we broke off. I don't know how
We
true
liked
that
having a
is.
band, so we started our own church.
It
That's
started
funny.
softly with just a guitar. They grew to now they have a band.
That was the testing the waters, was the guitar. That's funny.
So I grew up in that church. And because my grandparents and their friends started that church, not only did I have a lot of extended family there, but everyone else there felt like extended family. So everyone there were my aunts and my
Very
uncles and my
close-knit
cousins and my
community,
grandparents.
yeah.
And I would say the main thing that holds that church together is the community aspect. It's not necessarily like other denominations where it's like, oh, well, I'm Methodist, and so I go here because I believe these certain things to be true about Christianity. It's more, we all love Jesus, and so we are going to come together here because we also all love each other.
Okay.
And so it's a very tight-knit community aspect.
Okay.
Like a lot of other evangelical non-denominational churches, they didn't believe in infant baptism, so they believed that you needed to be able to decide for yourself, and also that the communion was only a symbol, a representation. We did do it every week because they saw the importance of it. I know there are some that don't always do that. And I was taught just from a young age, going to Bible study, going to all the youth events, that Jesus loved me. And throughout youth group and different retreats and different trips, I really got to know Jesus a little bit more personally. And I ended up being baptized right before I left for college.
Oh, wow.
Because I was like, okay, I'm about to go to college. I'm going to a public college. I need to show everyone, like, I'm going to still be a Christian in college. And I think that's really how I viewed it. And the church I grew up in, because we were mostly all together, because we all loved Jesus and we loved each other, there weren't distinct beliefs on every individual thing. So whereas like the Catholic Church is very clear of like, you need to have your infant baptized because it's an efficacious sign, like it really creates a new life. It can be a little bit lessened in the church that I grew up in, where some people might think, yes, it is an efficacious sign. Some people think, no, it's just a symbol of you being obedient to Jesus. And so I kind of thought of it as like a symbol, although I did it out of obedience. I felt the Holy Spirit like really touching me to be baptized, and so I did it basically last minute before I went for college. I think it was like the weekend before I left for college.
What do I gotta pack? What's left? Oh, I gotta get baptized.
Yeah. So I did that, and then I went to college. I did only go like 30 minutes away, so I could have come home on the weekends and went to church, which I actually ended up doing. But I kind of took the opportunity to explore Christianity a little bit more, because growing up in a non-denominational church, I guess similar to like what you said, like growing up Catholic, you don't really know anything about the other denominations.
Yeah, you don't really get the opportunity to learn more about other groups. Yeah.
And so for me, growing up in a church where it's like, well, we all love Jesus, and so we're all going to be together as a community here, I didn't understand why there was maybe like disagreements or differences in between the different places.
Right.
Because like I
We're all
could have
just supposed to love Jesus. What's the point?
yeah, because like I could have understood it as like, okay, well, this is their community and this is my community and this is their community, but then there was also like fighting of like, you don't believe the right thing, and I'm like, what do you not believe? Don't we all believe in Jesus?
Like, let's bring out the checklist. Yeah, like, where? Jesus. Okay, so what else? Yeah.
And so I went to college, and people experiment with lots of things in college. I experimented with church denominations.
Oh my gosh. Oh my word.
So I had roommates that came from lots of different Christian backgrounds, and there are lots of different campus ministries. Since it was a public university, it wasn't from a certain Christian
Right.
denomination. So there were Baptist ministries, Methodist, interdenominational. There was also a Catholic ministry. My roommates were Methodist and like Bible-based evangelical and Catholic, and from all these different places. And so I just wanted to try out a little bit of everything.
A whole buffet of Christianity, yeah.
Yeah. And just to be like, what is the difference here? And I honestly couldn't tell much besides like the way they acted about things and the way that they did things in their actual church service. And so it kind of became like, okay, which one do I like the best? I did end up liking liturgical services a little bit more than like the normal like concert, which is kind of what I grew up with. It wasn't like extreme, like it was just like a normal little band.
Yeah.
But I ended up liking that kind of style more. Didn't really know why. So when I was in college on the weekends, I would go to the Methodist church, like the more traditional service with my roommate. And then I would pretty frequently come home and then go to church with my parents at my home church, because that still felt like this is my
Right,
home church.
yeah.
Like I might go to all these different places, but this is my home church. I was exposed to Catholicism like for the first time in college through Father Mike Schmidt's videos and some Emily Wilson videos. But every time I watched those videos, I was like, oh, well, that's what they believe. That's not what I believe. So I didn't have a reason. I'm just like, that's nice. That's interesting that they think
How
that.
cool. Yeah.
And I would go to a couple masses with my Catholic friend because I thought it was very interesting. And she was like, yeah, we believe that it's really Jesus in the communion wafer. And I was like, what? Like when does that happen? I was like, as it goes down your throat? Like, you just believe that it just becomes Jesus and it's, like, in your heart? And she's like, well, not really. And transubstantiation is, like, super hard to explain.
Yeah,
so it's like when the priest does the thing, it becomes Jesus. But I was like, whoa, that's kind of
Like, I
weird.
beg your pardon? Yeah, like he goes, what? Yeah. So.
But I never was turned off by Catholicism. I was always interested in it. And I think it was because, like, my dad and my grandfather were always open to Catholicism. They always thought, like, wow, it's so cool how reverent everything is, and how they do things is so pretty and beautiful, and, like, wow. And so I never grew up with a bad taste in my mouth with
A
Catholicism.
disdain, yeah, like a lot of folks
like
in
some
the
people
Bible
might.
Belt do, yeah.
And so, yeah, I was interested in it. I got the chance to study abroad in Spain.
Oh, wow.
For 6 months while I was in college. That's actually where I met my husband. And when we would travel around with our art history teacher, we would go to lots of cathedrals, of course, because that's like the center of art in Spanish history. And every time we went to one, I just kind of thought, wow, this is a nice relic of the past. This is a nice museum of sorts, but like this isn't, like I didn't really think like this is an alive and active thing in the community.
It's just a historical recording of what, of what it was like at that time, yeah.
Like, I, of course, knew some Catholics growing up, and I knew that it did exist still, Catholicism, but I'm like, well, this just isn't, like, the thing anymore. And we didn't grow up with much church history at all in my non-denominational church, and so...
Yeah, like, what would the history be on that, I guess, now that you say that out loud, because I'm like, oh, if it's just, like, we founded it 3 years ago, that's our history, and then Jesus died, and here we are, so, like, what would that look like? Yeah, that's a good point.
And so I would say that, like with most evangelical Protestant churches, they do really good with, like, bringing people in that might not know Jesus, but after a while, it kind of lacks a certain depth in terms of, like, history. Like, our church started in the 80s, or even, like, the deepness of the theology, because since it's just the community, you might not have a theologian that goes to that church that can help guide everyone.
Interesting, yeah.
And so it was, I noticed once I graduated college and my husband and I got married, and we were trying to think for ourselves, like, okay, where do we want to start going to church for ourselves? do we want to continue going to this church, or do we want to try a different denomination? And when we were looking for two things. This was also after COVID, so lots of things had kind of changed with the community in my church. Lots of people had left, new people had come in. And I was mainly looking for conviction and community. Like, I wanted to go someplace that just didn't tell me that everything was great, and like
God
I
loves
was
you as you are. He doesn't want you to change at all. Like,
Yeah.
okay, calm down.
like, Jesus died for your sins. Great. What does that mean?
Yeah, like, how does that look 2,000 years later? Like, yeah.
I want something that's like actually going to like tell me to live differently.
And how to live in today's world. Like, it's not enough that, yes, I know that, but how is that a roadmap for the problems that I'm going to encounter in the contemporary? So, yeah.
And then also community, because even though I grew up having lots of great friends in youth group, people weren't returning after they graduated college and they got married. Like, they weren't coming back. So
That
the
makes
friends
you
that I
wonder
grew up
why.
with,
Yeah, like, what is the reason for that? Yeah.
I mean, some of them were moving. They went to a different state.
And life
but some of
happens,
them, they were local and then weren't coming back. And so we didn't have a lot of community there outside of like my cousins and grandparents that we saw, which was great. It was great seeing family. But it's like we could see our family outside of church. So we shouldn't really be going to a church just so we can
to see
my family.
Exactly.
But when we tried lots of different churches, we didn't try the Catholic Church yet, but when we tried them, we found some places where it's like, oh, they have lots of young people, this could be really great, but the services were a little more like a concert, and we were like, do we agree with what they're teaching? I don't know. Because we also didn't know what we knew. Like, we didn't, like, we knew that we were seeking, like, truth. But
There
it
had
was
been
kind
no
of like,
firm, we believe in X, Y, Z, we do not believe in A, B, C.
yeah.
It was just like, whatever we can do to get the most people to come in. Like,
For me personally, what I was seeking was like, I'm seeking truth, but I don't know what it is.
right.
But when I see it, I'll know
I'll
it.
know, yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I was looking for. And we didn't find it in those churches. So we were already planning at this point for, in a couple years, my husband's a Spanish teacher, so we would go and he would get a master's degree in Spain for a school year. So it's like, okay, we're about to move to Spain for a year in a couple years. So what we'll do is we'll keep going to our church until then, and then once we come back,
We'll sort through it
We'll
then.
buy a house, we'll see what's close to us,
Yeah.
and then we'll figure out what we want to do from there. But God had other plans.
As he often does, yeah.
And like 5 months before we left for Spain, he called us to become Catholic. And he stepped in like a pretty like dramatic way where it's like, wow, this is it. Like, this is what we're going to be doing. And he led it up with lots of things planned in place so that for the moment to happen. And my dad, like I said, had always been interested in Catholicism. The year before, in 2023, Ascension had come out with the Catechism in a Year podcast. That was the first year that they went through it with Father Mike. And my dad, as a hobby, listened to the full thing as a non-denominational Protestant.
Wow.
And that's just kind of what he does. He has those little hobbies, and everyone thought, oh, that's so funny. Like, that's just what he does. That's just a hobby. Is he going to become Catholic? He's like, no, I'm not going to be Catholic. I'm just listening to this for fun. And they're like, oh, that's silly. And towards the end of 2023, my husband had also started getting interested in Catholicism. He was actually baptized Catholic and went exclusively to Catholic church until he was about 10 when his parents got divorced. And then they both stopped going to the Catholic church, and he mainly grew up between Lutheran and Methodist and some other Protestant denominations with his mom. And so he kind of considered himself at the time we got married as just Christian. Like, he's kind of had all of it. And so he's just like, I'm Christian. But when we had thought about like touring the different churches and church shopping, as they call it, I was like, hey, what if we check out a Catholic church? He was like, no, it's boring. I don't want to do that. Because he mainly remembers like going to mass with his grandmother and it being boring. Because like if you're under 10, like it can be pretty boring. It's not a concert.
Yeah, you're not pre-reading your Bible beforehand. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he's like, no, I don't want to do that. It's boring. But with my dad listening to it, and also my husband's a big rule follower, and so he's like, okay, on January 1st, I'm going to start catechism in a year, and so I'll continue the whole year. And he did it.
Oh, wow.
He did it every
wow.
year. He's anything but consistent. But then at that time, I really wasn't thinking too much about it still. I was still thinking, like, okay, like, I'm still not feeling that satisfied at our church. Like, I'm still looking, even though I know we were about to go to Spain and, like, we would change things up. It's like, I was still searching. And I was thinking about Anglicanism a little bit because one of our former pastors at our non-denominational church actually left and became an Anglican priest. And we really liked him. And so I was like, if he likes it, well,
if we
then
like him,
we'll
then,
probably
yeah.
like it. So in Easter of 2024, we were at my parents' house for Easter dinner. And we were talking about how we weren't like quite satisfied with our church, and we were still like searching, and we just didn't know. And we knew we were about to leave for Spain and be there in a couple months, and we could change when we get back. But it was still just like it just felt like we wanted more,
Right.
no matter what. And I was thinking like, well, we have a friend, our former pastor at our non-denominational church who became an Anglican priest. So we're like, maybe we should try the Anglican church. And especially because like we were Protestant, but my dad was kind of interested in Catholicism. So I was like, hey, let's go to the Anglican church. And my dad said, if I believe that Jesus started the Catholic Church, why would I go anywhere else? And for me, like the Holy Spirit really used that moment just to like pierce my heart. Like it kind of felt like I was just like hit with the Holy Spirit, where like the scales fell from my eyes, and like that moment just like changed me forever, and basically made me Catholic, because I was just like, that's it.
Bingo.
Like
Yeah.
I need to be Catholic, and I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know anything about it really. I just knew a little bit that I had known from my friend that was Catholic from college. But I was like, I need to listen to this Catechism in a Year podcast.
It must be pretty great if, yeah.
And so I went home and I binged it for a full week, even
wow,
longer. But
yeah.
for the first week, I listened to about 100 episodes.
Wow.
And because I remember my cousin got married that Friday, and driving to her wedding, I was on like episode like 90 something.
Oh, wow.
And just by like I said, I was kind of Catholic like from that instance, but in the first like day or two, I was just like, oh no, like we gotta go be Catholic. And the funny thing is, I don't know that my dad said that in the sense of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go be Catholic. I think he was just thinking, if I left my non-denominational church, that's where I would go. I wouldn't go to another one.
Right.
And but for me, it was just like the spark that lit the fire. And because my husband had already been listening to the Catechism in a Year podcast that year from January 1st, it kind of, that was like kind of like also like the kindlings of the fire, that when it was lit in me, that it lit in him too. And so I was like, let's go to Mass on Sunday. And he was like, okay. And we've been going to Mass every Sunday since then. And so that first Sunday, after that week of binging the Catechism in a Year podcast, we went to our first Mass. And we actually started doing double on Sundays, where we go to the 8 a.m. Mass at the Catholic Church near our house, and then we would go to the 10 a.m. service at the non-denominational church that I grew up at. And we were kind of doing that partially just like test it out, because like we were sure like we both wanted to be Catholic at that time, but we still needed to kind of live in a parish a little bit, even if it was before we left for Spain for only a couple of months, just to see like what is it like to be in the Catholic Church. But then I think also part of it was we were a little intimidated by like telling our family and our church community how would that play out. We were in a small group at the time with some people that were like, we don't really know how they feel about Catholicism, and so if we like told them, hey, we're gonna be Catholic, are they going to challenge us and like try to debate? Because
apologetics immediately.
Because like I've been learning a lot, listen to 100 episodes of the Catechism in a Year and week, but I didn't know enough to like defend myself and say like, well, this is why I'm going to be Catholic, because it was still very new. So we were just kind of like keeping it protected at that time. Our pastor was actually at the Catholic Church. He's actually from India. I think they call it ex-cardinate, where they exchange
He's from the Diocese of Little Rock, yeah.
And so he went home for like 6 weeks that summer to visit his family. So we had a bunch of substitute priests for a while. And so he got back like, I think beginning of July. And we only had like a month and a half before we were leaving Little Rock to go to Spain. And we met with him, told him the story that I just told you. And I was like, so how soon can we get confirmed? Can we do it before we leave? Also during this time, we learned that our marriage was not valid in the church because my husband was baptized Catholic, and in the Catholic Church, you're considered Catholic as soon as you enter in. And even if you leave the church, unless it's like a super official declaration of
they excommunicate you.
Like you're considered Catholic, and you're held to the laws of the church. And one of those laws is you need to get married in the Catholic Church if you are Catholic. But we didn't consider ourselves Catholic at the time. He didn't. His Catholic family members didn't tell us anything that we needed to do regarding that. So we got married in a Protestant wedding, but we learned that you weren't supposed to do that. And so we were like, okay, we need to get married in the church. We need to get confirmed in the church. We have a month and a half until we leave for Spain. So let's do this. And because he's an ex-cardinate priest, he didn't have the same type of authority that like maybe like a local priest does. So he's gonna have to like go to the bishop for even more stuff than like a normal like priest in the diocese would. And even if we were talking to a Little Rock diocese priest, he wouldn't have been able to do it in a month. And so we were kind of we were kind of disappointed. And at that point we were kind of like, this is why people don't like the Catholic Church.
We don't make it easy to do stuff.
Like, it's bureaucracy, and like, what about that story in the Bible where the guy, he wanted to be baptized and he was baptized immediately? Like, what about this? Like this just doesn't feel right. But we were so still like on fire that we're like, this is still worth it.
It's a test, yeah.
This is still worth it. Like we've felt that passion. Are we just gonna give it up because we have to go through some Catholic legal hoops?
Yeah.
And so we're like, even though this is like frustrating, and also like usually the Catholics that have invalid marriages, that get married outside the church, some of them usually know.
Yeah.
Like they know that they are supposed to get married in the church. Or
that was their intention, yeah.
Or like their grandmother tells them and is upset that they're not that. But like for us, it was completely unintentional. No one was telling us that we shouldn't.
Yeah, you didn't know. Yeah.
And so it felt like unfair. Like we were being punished for
something
his parents' divorce.
Yeah.
And it's just like the temporal punishment of sin, I guess you can call it, because like it's just the ramifications of all that. And so we had to accept that God was opening the door for us to go to Spain. He was allowing that to happen. The visa process went smoothly. Everything was going in that direction. But at the same time, he was calling us to be Catholic. But it wasn't on our timeline.
Right.
And so for me, it was really like a shock because we have that instant gratification culture.
Right.
And it's like, I was like, God, like, why are you calling us to be in the Catholic Church?
Why am I not immediately Catholic?
Yeah, if like, you're not allowing me to be Catholic right now. And we had like two options. So it's like, well, you could wait till next summer when you come back, or you can try to get it done in Spain. But yes, we are one universal church, but each diocese is kind of managed differently.
Yeah.
So, especially because they're in another country, we don't really have any contact there. So you're kind of on your own.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of had to accept it as like our cross to bear. We're like, okay, this was not. There's this guy that he's a counselor, a psychologist, and he has this podcast. His name is John Deloney, and he says the the phrase "not by your hand but in your lap," and it's kind of that. It's like this kind of like fell in our lap, but like because it's in our lap, like we have to pick it up. Like this cross like was not our own doing,
Right.
but like we still have to pick it up, and
Yeah,
it's
it's
the
been
cross
laid
that we're
on us.
called to
Yeah.
carry. So we had to go to Spain with that in mind. And at this time, we had been looking forward to going to Spain, going back to Spain and living there and having so much fun and traveling. But it had now a cloud over it of like, now we have to wait. Now we have the thing that we want to do, like we can't do that. Like we have to wait to be in the Catholic Church. And we're learning about it every day, like we're loving it even more every day. And so it just kind of felt unfair. And we had to like just really lean into like trusting God and learning how to do that. I found the litany of trust at that time. And like how it says like you will teach me to trust you. That's really what it was. Like he was teaching us to trust him with the timing of everything, even though that it was not the time that we wanted.
Right.
And so that was most of the time we were there, and we still got to travel. It was still lots of fun. And because we had done a lot of European traveling the last time we were there and we studied abroad, we were like, okay, we're Catholic now. Spain's super Catholic, lots of Catholic history. Let's go to all the Catholic sites. And so we, one of our first trips was on All Saints Day.
Oh, wow.
We went to Avila, where Teresa of Avila, St. John of the Cross, where they're from. And we got to go to the convent that St. Teresa of Avila became a nun in, and then she came back later in her life because she traveled around founding all these different monasteries, and she came back and was the prioress at that monastery. And so it's a big part of her life, and St. John of the Cross was also in this convent with her, and they had a lot of mystical prayer experiences together in this convent. And at the time, because I was only like 6 months, a new Catholic, not like officially yet,
baby Catholic,
but like
yeah.
in my heart Catholic, I didn't really understand saints. I didn't really understand Mary. Like what is all of this?
Yeah,
Like,
they were just cool people. Yeah.
yeah, it's like what is this praying to saints? Like what's the hype with this? I know I'm supposed to choose a
Yeah,
patron
how's
saint.
that work? Yeah.
I know I'm supposed to choose a patron saint, but like what? Like
I'm
I
just
don't
happy
know.
to be here,
Like
yeah.
do I just choose like Mary? Because I know I'm always gonna like Mary. But even then, I'm like I don't really know Mary that well.
Right.
But I would say that trip to Avila and going to the convent, it wasn't a popular spot. It's kind of out of the way. It's a little bit outside of the wall of the city. And the volunteer, she was so excited that we were there. And she said, okay, you can walk through the museum, and here's all the details of everything in your language. You can walk through. And she opened the door for us, and she said, at least 6 saints have walked through this door.
Oh, wow.
And she named like Teresa Avila, St. John of the Cross, Pope St. John Paul II.
Oh, wow.
He visited there in like the 80s. I don't know who the others were. She said it kind of fast. But it was like, wow, like I'm standing in the spot where like lots of other saints have been. Like, that's cool. And then we have the paper, we're reading it as we're walking through. We're completely alone in this museum, and there are all these relics. And I didn't really understand that, but like I could just feel like the presence. Like it's not like understanding Mary and the saints is kind of in the same way where you can kind of understand who the Holy Spirit is and who Jesus is, even if you've like never interacted with him in person. And you can have a relationship with him. You can't really explain that.
Yeah.
Like you can explain all the theology, but until you like encounter a relationship with them, it doesn't really make sense. And then in beginning of that next year, in 2025, the Jubilee year, we were still doing the thing where we would go up for communion and cross our arms. And we had found a really great parish in Spain. We love them. And February of that year, my husband was talking with the priest, and he's like, look, I'm getting like impatient with waiting. Like, we've been waiting for a long time now. Like, it's almost been like a year, because it was February. It was April 1st when we were like, okay, we're going to be Catholic. And so then the priest was like, okay, let me see what I can do. And we're foreign, like, we have different documents. We don't have our documents in Spain. I had 0 documents. My church didn't write down when I was baptized.
Right.
And so we had to just get my parents to sign a letter saying, yes, I was baptized at this time.
Oh, wow.
And then we had to get my husband's documents come over from the U.S. and the whole process of mailing
Oh,
it.
my goodness.
And getting in contact with the parishes that he was
Yeah.
baptized in, his parents had no contact with, weren't even in the same
Oh,
state.
my goodness.
And yeah, so it was a pretty big, like,
A lot of
hassle.
paperwork, yeah.
But the priest was like, no, I'm going to do this for
Oh,
you.
wow.
We're gonna figure it out. He kept going to the archdiocese office, like, okay, we have this couple, like, let's do this for them. And it was all during Lent, and I'm like, oh, maybe it'll happen like at Easter. And it all kind of just like fell into place at that time. And actually the date where we met with him, we told him our story, and he's like, okay, yes, let's do this, was Valentine's Day.
Oh, wow.
And so we're like, okay, like, let's pray to St. Valentine and, like, have this stuff happen. And it did.
Wow.
And that day, so it's like, because we had to get our marriage valid in the church, we had to have another wedding ceremony. And so we're like, oh, we got engaged on Valentine's Day. And finally, we met with the vicar who was over the area of Madrid that we were in. He's like, okay, we could do a couple different options. We'll see what the vicar says, but we could get you guys confirmed, like, in our parish on a Sunday, whatever Sunday he's available. But we don't have anyone else getting confirmed at this time, so you might need to, like, go to another parish and, like, actually do the confirmation. But if he likes you, then maybe we can convince him to come and do it here, just exclusively for you guys. And so when we told him our story, he was like, this is amazing. He's like, this is awesome. He's like, I love you guys. And he was just so excited about our story. And he's like, yeah, let's do this. And so we were able to get confirmed in,
Awesome. In Spain.
in Spain.
Wow.
It was all in Spanish. So our Spanish in college paid off, which
Thank God
my husband's a
yep.
Spanish teacher, so he's practiced.
That worked out. That's fabulous.
But yeah, it was really great. Lots of people came up to us afterwards and they're like, we had never seen something like this before, because like
Wow.
they've seen adult confirmations,
Yeah.
because a lot of adults in Spain like may wait till
Yeah.
later to get confirmed, but Protestantism really isn't popular in Spain. And so to see Protestant converts to
Interesting.
Catholicism,
Yeah.
they really had never seen something like that before, and they're like, this is so cool. This is such a beautiful ceremony.
Cool.
And we're like, wow, like it was just very special. And we had planned on getting married the next day. Because we're like, okay, we'll get confirmed and then we'll get married. So like I was like, okay. So I had my first confession on the 3rd, and then on the 4th we got confirmed at First Communion, and then on the 5th we got married. So I just have all the sacraments just like in one go.
That's so cool.
But we ended up not being able to do that because our priest found out. He's like, okay, it's actually better just to register your paperwork, the diocese, that you're Catholic first, and then we'll get you married. And so we were just waiting on the paperwork.
Wow.
And we waited several weeks, and we were like, okay, like, when is it coming in? And he was like, okay, I think I'm going to get it this week. So pick a day next week. And we're like, let's just pick the soonest day. Let's do Tuesday, May 27th. So we just did that day. The young people's group, like there's a group of like 20-year-olds at that parish that we got involved with, and they were so excited about it. They were like, can we sing at your wedding? Can we come? Can we take pictures? Like, can we just be a
That's
part of
so
it? Some of them were like,
cute.
this was my first wedding, because people get married a lot later in
Yeah.
Spain. And so it was a very special
Oh, wow.
event to have all of them involved with us as
So
well.
supportive and enthusiastic. Yeah.
Because like if we had waited to be confirmed and have our sacrament of matrimony, I don't know how to call it exactly, when we got back, like our family wouldn't really understand. They're
Yeah.
mostly Protestant or lapsed Catholics, and they're like, okay, good for you, but like they don't really understand. And so if we had had that here, like we wouldn't have had as much support and excitement around it as we did. And I think that it was like is the month of Mary, in the year of Jubilee, that it just all came together.
So cool.
Very Catholic.
Very divine timing. Yep.
And so, yeah, it was like over a year that we had to wait for confirmation. But it turned out great. And it's like going back to the litany of trust, like that you will teach me to trust you. That's what he was doing.
Yeah.
He was just teaching us to trust him. And now we're just like super Catholic. We're super just excited to be here and to just share Catholicism and the joy of Catholicism with everyone. Because a lot of people might think that it's kind of sleepy or it's boring. It's not. Like it's so deep. Like it goes so much deeper than like anything else. And one thing I really love, and that like really touched me in the first episodes of the Catechism that I listened to, was like we're called to childlike abandonment to the church and what they teach. And that was really what I needed, because I didn't know what I believed. I didn't know why I believed it. I honestly didn't read the Bible that much growing up, because to me it was very stressful. Like, I'm reading it, I don't understand it, I want to understand it. I'm definitely one of those people that it's like, if I'm not good at it right away, then I'm not going to continue it. And so having the lens of like, I need to read the Bible and understand it for myself to know what I believe was just a lot. And so I never really read the Bible past like Numbers or past the first couple of books of the New Testament, because it was just like, this is stressful to me, I don't understand it. But with childlike abandonment to the church, you can receive the good news instead of having to go and learn it for yourself. Because we have thousands of years of very, very smart people and very holy people who know way more than you ever will, telling you what the things mean and guiding you on the way, and all of the cloud of witnesses of saints, like telling you like, here's how you live a great life, and you don't have to figure it out for yourself. You can just submit to that and receive it. It's a really great gift. All right, so that's my story. Katie, can you tell us about yours?
I always hate going after convert Catholic, because they've always got like the most incredible saintly story you've ever heard ever, and then I'm like, I don't know, I was just born into it. But like, seriously though, I mean, when I look back at my faith story so far, I really do mean what I said when I said that we're like the same, like two different sides of the same Catholic coin. I feel like anytime I talk to Catholic converts, they're like so on fire for the faith. If you've talked to me personally, you know that I have this running joke that one convert Catholic is worth 10 cradle Catholics, because I think a lot of cradle Catholics take for granted the gift that they have literally just at their fingertips, that they're surrounded with, that they grow up in. And with so many cradle Catholics, it was something that I didn't realize until I'd almost lost it, what a gift that I had. So grew up in a super devout Catholic, a super traditional Polish Catholic family, 6th generation Catholic, and was just always kind of like, this is the way things are. This is the way things had always been. Had attended Catholic schools my entire life, all the way through the end of high school. And so then the infamous thing happened that happens to a lot of cradle Catholics. They go to college, and it's not normally a Catholic college, and they're like, like an absolute terror for the first 6 months. And that's exactly what happened to me. Whether it was just being around people who didn't have a lot of the same beliefs as me, to being around people that, you know, you start seeing some of the educational differences when you're around people who didn't get the parochial school gift of education for the entire K through 12th grade education. And you just kind of start seeing ideas that you didn't see before, and they look very tempting. Because you're like, I didn't think that you could do things that way. That's not what I'm used to. And as you said, college is a time of experimentation. And I'm sure your parents are way more proud of the things you experimented with than the things that I experimented with in college, because I definitely fell away from the faith during college. When I think about I think a lot about the story, and I don't remember the context of the story, but I remember the quote, and I think the quote is the most important part of the story. A well-known Catholic theologian was talking with one of his students, and one of his students was like, "But why did Jesus have to die, though? Like, be crucified? Like, that's so gruesome. Like, why out of everything? Like, why did God let all that happen?" And the theologian said, "You clearly don't know the weight of sin if you're asking me that question." And I feel like the weight of sin during my college years, I'm still going to be making up for a long time, and I feel like that's probably the case with a lot of cradle Catholics. I mean, when you go to college, that's really when you're kind of like, "Oh, I'm my own person. Mom and Dad can't tell me to get up and go to Mass anymore. I'm just doing my own thing now." And then you find out, okay, clearly I'm not mature enough to be doing my own spiritual thing. At least I was not. I'm sure there are some people who are. I was not. So during college, I really fell away from the faith. It was just kind of like, whatever, that's my grandma's religion. And I think a lot of it was because, and I didn't realize this until later on when I was older, I think a lot of cradle Catholics don't do a very good job teaching you why you need to go to Mass. I think that growing up, it was always like, "Oh, we're going to see Grandma, we're going to see Grandpa, we're going to see our classmate, we're going to see our best friend, and Mr. Siebold will be there. Hi, Mr. Siebold." That's not why you go to Mass. And that wasn't something that I realized until I was a lot older. So, I go to college. I have a real St. Augustine arc where I'm like just really hamming it up, living in a world of sin, and got a job out of college as a lobbyist. I'm sure that there's a joke somewhere in there about how in the midst of my heathenism I got a job as a lobbyist. But you know, I loved it. I was good at it. I really do feel like the Breaking Bad meme. I liked it. I was good at it, and I planned on doing it for the rest of my life. God did not. I was really good at it. I don't like tooting my own horn, but I was great at it. I had a lot of fun with it. I mean, it was like a blast getting up, going to work every day. I mean, I was in my element. And I remember I went up to D.C. This was probably 2 or 3 years ago now. Went up to D.C. on a Monday. Broke records all that week. I mean, was giving a speech to 2,000 people Thursday. Come home Friday. Get called into a meeting on Monday morning, and I'm told that my position has been eliminated. What? Because I had planned on retiring from here. What the heck am I supposed to do from here? I had no idea what to do. When I tell you that messed me up, it messed me up, because I thought I was going to be doing that for the rest of my life. And if you know me, I'm very type A, and I like to get up, work my plan, and then do it all according to my planner, and that's why sometimes God and we really have to duke it out, because that's not how God plans things, and I live living by my planner, and I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing right now. It was a real, what am I doing here kind of moment. Like, why did I go to school, get all these degrees, meet all these people, gain all this experience, like, well, what was it all for kind of thing. And then I got a phone call out of the blue, and it was the editor of the Arkansas Catholic newspaper. She had remembered me from a story that she did on me like 10 years before when I was in high school. And she was like, "Hey, I know you've got a journalism background. You've written for all these, publications and state. I had a secular journalism background, even though that's not what I went to college for. We can go on that rabbit hole another day. But had done that, a lot of environmental lobbying firms, stuff like that. And she was like, "I need an associate editor. You were an associate editor. Come work for me. You're Catholic." And I was like, I'm not who I was then. Today, I really don't. I pretty much straight up told her, "I don't think I'm the Catholic you're looking for." And hung up. 2 weeks later, she called me again. She was like, "Hey, I still need an associate editor. You were an associate editor. You're Catholic. Come work for me." And I was like, "I still, 2 weeks later, don't think that I'm the Catholic that you're looking for." And hung up. 2 weeks later, she called me again, and she was like, I was like, "Okay, you know what? I know a sign from God when I see one. Clearly, this is where I need to be." I had no idea what I was getting into, truthfully. I mean, look at me. I don't look like, the Bible-thumping churchgoer. I mean, I'm covered in tattoos and piercings. Another hallmark from my crazy college days. But I was like, and I don't know where I feel about my faith in general right now. Because, when you go through some not so great stuff in your formative years, you're like, where was God in all that? We talk a lot about earning God's forgiveness, but we don't talk a lot about forgiving God. And so I think that a lot of my spirituality was stunted because I was at a spot where I was like, dude, if this is what God is like, I don't want to be around him. I don't want to have somebody like that in my life. And lo and behold, I think God knows how hard-headed I am, because he was like, dude, if I got to bring you to my headquarters to get you to figure out who I really am, then that's what I'm going to do. And he did. And it was through, and I think that that's a lot of why I was really interested in Planet Cross as a project, because it was literally through hearing people's stories 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, that I was like, these weren't people who came from perfect, happy, cushy lives, and they're just, it's easy to be Catholic. I've never had anything bad happen to me. These are people who have had serious stuff happen to them in their lives. And when they were able to double down and be even better Catholics and Christians, I was like, what am I missing out on? That they went through stuff that might be way worse than what I went through. And they're here every Sunday at 9 a.m. sharp doing whatever they need to do. What is my major malfunction then? What's my disconnect? And so it was a lot of asking those questions. It was interesting that God made me a journalist, because I was not a journalist. When I graduated college, it was not at all with the intention to be a journalist. I think God handpicked me to be a journalist. I feel like God let me use the avenue of being a journalist to ask people questions that I had kind of been ruminating on for a long time, but through the lens of, I'm just doing some research for an article, could you tell me a little more about? So I think he opened that door by giving me the opportunity to ask questions that maybe other people weren't thinking about, because these were things that I'd been stewing over for years. So I'm really, really thankful that, because I do believe that my gift of writing is a gift from God. My communications gifts are gifts from God. Because I wouldn't be in this place at this state in my spiritual life if God had not physically ripped me out of where I was before and thrown me here. It just wouldn't have happened. If you'd have told me 3 years ago that this is where I'd be right now, I would have laughed. I'd have been like, there's no shot. But that's how it worked out. And, I think continuing down that path, I also married a Protestant. So now I find myself having to think about things in a way that I hadn't thought about them before, because now his family's like, why do you guys do that? I'm like, I don't know, I've just always done that. So now it's making me think about, it's almost like the reverse of what I've been doing to others, asking questions. Now they're making me learn about my faith by asking me questions about things that I just don't normally think about. They're not the things that I've been ruminating for the last few years in my mind. So it's super interesting to see how all of those skills, kind of like I said earlier, I can now step back and see, that really sucked when it was going on, but I see why it happened now, because had that not happened, I wouldn't be here. Which, arguably, I feel like I'm doing more fulfilling work now than I was before, talking to people all on Capitol Hill and giving speeches to thousands of people, because I can see the impact that my work is having here. I couldn't see that impact there. It was just, well, I trust you guys are going to go do what I tell you to do now. Bye, see you guys on the flip side. But now it's okay, I'm talking to people in my community, places that I can go or volunteer at or attend Mass at, and I can see the difference. And that's really the stuff that I like to do, which is really at the core of everything that we're doing here. Highlighting those stories that are in our own communities instead of looking far, far away for things that we've got right here. Really grounding in reality that this is something that we have here, that we've got the gift of this here. So obviously, I'm still doing a lot of spiritual work to try to figure out, where am I at on this spiritual journey? I by no means think that I'm like, oh goodness, I've got it all figured out and here I am to evangelize to all of you. No, I'm still on the journey too. So, that'll be an interesting lens to see it through too, because I feel like, you're on fire. You just got here. You're like, I'm so ready to do this. And I'm like, I'm a warm, comfortable glow. Let me tell you from the perspective of somebody who's been doing this a hot minute how I feel about this. So I'm really excited to see how that comes out in a lot of this too, in terms of our own different backgrounds as Catholics, how that kind of impacts a lot of the work that we do in this mission as well.
Yeah, and it's all about God working through us.
Absolutely.
Because I think so. I had tried to do social media for myself, make a brand out of myself, when I got out of college. But it was so stressful because I was I was the content generator, I was the content creator, and everything in my life kind of became focused around making content, and it was so stressful, and I finally got a real job, and I'm like, I'm never doing that again.
When you're building up your persona too, that's exhausting.
Yeah.
Because literally everything you do is like, how are people going to perceive me? Because your brand is who you are. Like, there's no turning it off. Like, that's kind of like, that's why I tell everybody right out of the gate, and that's exactly what I'm doing with this episode. I am not a perfect person. I've never been a perfect Catholic. You could dig something up from my heathen years in college and be like, and look at this. Do you trust that?
Yeah.
That's part of growth. That's part of the journey. Had I not had that period, I would not be able to be where I am now. So I'm thankful that it happened because I'm not in it now. But like you said, that's so exhausting because, especially when it's like, were this a show where it was like, this is our journey and through our lens. Okay, first of all, I don't want to watch my journey through my lens. Okay, I'm bored with my own journey and my own lens, respectfully. But like, that is so exhausting, like you said, to just be like 24/7. Am I my own person or am I a brand? Because like, dude, anytime you leave your house, anybody can take a picture or a video or a recording of you, and it's just exhausting. So
And also, like, if we were just here to talk about ourselves or what we think, like, that's exhausting too, because then I have to focus on being the expert on everything.
Yeah.
But if we're just giving basically a platform to God of like, you're talking through these people's lives,
Absolutely.
you're working through their lives, let's just give a platform to God
and
and
that's
how
why
he's
I love that
working.
we're putting the microphone in front of them, because like, sure, you can get, you know, if I'm writing it, then you've got to trust that I've discerned through my lens the pieces and parts that stuck out to me the most. You're not getting the whole rest of the 1 hour and 58 minutes that I couldn't pull from that 2-hour interview because I had a word limit. But with this, we're literally just like, okay, the mic's on, the camera's on, tell us your story. You can decide through the lens of your faith or wherever you're at in life how that story impacts you or speaks to you. Whereas, you know, if you were just coming here for our version of that story, it might not speak as loudly to you as it might if something that, you know, Sister Cecilia or Father Ruben or somebody that you'll hear from in the next few weeks and months says, it might strike you differently because it came from him, from his mouth instead of mine. So,
Because God works through like a ton of different mouthpieces, and God is the ultimate creator. And he's the one creating this content.
For sure.
We're just the producers.
yes,
Like,
we're just the medium through which these things are happening. God is making us the channel for this. But I mean, it's exactly like you said with the comment that your dad said that was like your eureka moment. He didn't mean it that way, but that's how you heard it. So I'm really interested to see, you know, how many other people have an experience like that, because it's something that somebody here says that maybe I didn't read that way, because I've been doing this for 27 years, being Catholic my whole life. That might not strike me a certain way. But if you hear it a certain way, or somebody else hears it a certain way, depending on where you're at in life, I can only imagine, you know, the eureka effect that would have simply because you heard it from that person.
Yeah.
So, Madeline, we've talked a lot about us. We've talked a lot about how we've gotten to this point. We've talked a lot about this mission that we're on with Planet Cross. What can people expect over the next few months as we continue interviewing and rolling things out and preparing these testimonies? What can people expect over the next couple of months?
Yeah, so you can find us on YouTube. I think we'll be able to do a podcast as well. We'll figure that out. We both haven't done that before. We'll have written articles on our website, planetcross.com, and we'll also have an Instagram account and a Facebook, so you can check us out over there as well, where we'll share on the YouTube channel. We'll have the long form interviews of like the full thing if you want to sit down for an hour and a half and listen to our conversations that we have. You can go over there and listen to that. We will have guests who are priests, guests who are religious sisters, guests who are deacons, but also guests who are just normal lay people or people that are involved in local ministries. And we're just going to follow the trail of people and see who God puts in our path to ask on the show, who says yes to coming on, and just following that trail. And like I said, not everyone's going to be comfortable sitting down in front of the camera with the microphone in their face. And so we'll have more stories that are written on our website, Planet Cross. And we'll kind of focus in the areas of vocations. So that's like vocations to the priesthood and religious life and to marriage, and then also talking about social issues within the church. The church is the original social justice warrior, if you can call it that. Not in the sense that you hear nowadays.
The very politicized.
Yes, but in the true
We're the original,
this is how
we're the OG. Yeah.
This is how you serve the poor.
Yes.
This is how you serve those in need. This is how you do good to those around you, because that's one of the main things
Yes.
that Jesus talked about. And so we'll talk a little bit about that, especially with the guests that are doing their own ministries and serving the poor in different ways, or serving different types of people in different ways. And then also just people who have great stories. They might not have a fancy, special church-related job. They might just be a normal person, but they have a great story. And so we're going to highlight all of those for everyone to see, because like you said, it takes a specific person to say a specific thing sometimes for a person to understand it, or just the Holy Spirit choosing that exact moment to work in some people's lives. And so we just want to provide the content for that, to be able to touch someone's life when it comes across their Instagram feed as an Instagram reel, or they run across one of the clips of our interviews, and then maybe they go and watch the whole thing, or maybe they even find us through Google search. Like if they're searching for a question and we have a written article that touches on something about that, that we're providing that content out there, so whoever's searching, they can find, even if they're not searching, it'll find them sometimes.
Yep.
So that's what we're planning. We'll have 2 long-form interviews a month with some shorter clips of it. So if you don't want to listen to the full hour and a half, there are going to be some smaller versions of it
Although
posted.
it'd be really cool if you did.
Yes. And we'll have those written articles. We're trying to aim for at least 4 or 5 for the month. And we're going to start with the community that we know here, the Diocese of Little Rock. Hopefully go as far as we can within the Diocese of Little Rock, and maybe even if we're led to people outside of it, just seeing how this thing grows.
That's exciting. I'm excited.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Planet Cross exists to bring you stories like this. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to like and subscribe, share with a friend, and head over to our website, planetcross.com, to find more life-changing stories.